And as I mentioned, we will be in this child's pose for about 5 minutes. We've already been here for about a minute. And starting in a child's pose with a bolster, you might not get a lot of sensation. Without a bolster, you might feel something maybe in your hips or your knees or somewhere else. But remember that throughout our practice of yin, we're not looking for as much sensation as we would in a 30-second stretch or in our more traditional hatha yoga. If you think of a stretch as being a scale of 0 to 10, 0, you don't feel anything at all, and 10, you feel like you're tearing a muscle. We're only looking for about a 4 out of 10. So as we come into all of our postures, there's 4 tenets. We resolve to take the posture in the first tenet. In the second tenet, we resolve to stay there for the full time with as little fidgeting as possible. But where you might move is if you have any numbness or tingling in the limbs, then you might want to come out of the posture somewhat to allow the blood to flow to continue through that limb. Or if the sensation rises higher or lower than that 4 out of 10, and you may need to come in or out of that posture a little bit to come back to just that 4 out of 10. And as a reminder, this is more to stretch the connective tissue that surrounds the muscles in the joint than it is the muscles themselves. It's a very thick, fibrous tissue, not a lot of nerve endings, not a lot of blood supply. So it just takes longer to stretch, but there's not as much sensation around stretching it. If your head is turned to one side, go ahead and turn it to the other side. The third tenet of yin is simply to soften and surrender into the posture. Soften the body. Allow the posture to guide you. And an easy or a nice method to really just do this is to use your breath. And it may just be noticing the sensation of the breath going in and out, or it might be some guided breath work, such as a circular breath. So today we will do a circular breath. So as you're breathing in, you're simply breathing in through the mouth towards the back of the throat and imagining the breath or feeling the breath go all the way down through the front center line of your body, down to your belly button and your belly. And as you breathe out, the breath goes down between the legs and circles around and moves up the tailbone, the spine, and up through the crown of the head. So you're breathing in the front line and out, up the back line. For the last half a minute or so of this pose, just practice that circular breath, breathing in through to the back of the throat, down the front center of the body, down to the belly, and breathing out around between the legs and up the tailbone and the spine and up through the crown of the head. And take a nice long deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out. And then just come on up to a kneeling position. We're going to do my least favorite, one of my least favorite postures, which is our toe squat. So I'm sitting on the bolster. You certainly don't need the bolster for this. However, if the toe squat is difficult for you, the bolster is sometimes handy because it takes a bit of pressure off the toes if you come down to kneel on that bolster rather than directly down onto your heels. Depends on how high the bolster is. So we're going to do 2 1-minute rounds here. So once you come down onto those toes, Make sure you try and spread them wide. And we're just going to drop the right ear towards the right shoulder while we're here, and take the right hand just above that right ear and just give the neck a little stretch. Try and distract yourself from the toes. And then on your next breath out, go ahead and rotate the chin down towards that right armpit, opening up through that neck, maybe drawing those ears a bit over the shoulders once more. Release the head, bring the head back to neutral. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out. And then slowly come off of those toes, let them go flat on the mat, and just do a little pound out, a little toe tantrum. And maybe just make some circles with those ankles as well. One direction, the other direction. And then when you're ready, we're going to come back onto those toes, curling them under once more. Sometimes I find the second time is worse than the first time. We're going to come back into this for another minute. So once you're there, this time we'll drop the left ear towards the left shoulder, hand just above that right ear, drawing the left ear down a little further, opening up through the right side of the neck. Breathing here. And then going ahead and rotating that chin towards the left armpit, maybe drawing those ears back over the shoulders. Releasing the head, bringing it back to neutral. Taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out. And then slowly calming out, going back onto the hands and knees and just shaking out, tapping out those toes. And once more, just making some circles with those ankles in one way and the other. And then we're going to come to sit down on the mat. I don't know whether I'm using my blanket today because I want the padding or just because it's warmer on my floor when I sit on a blanket. But either way, you can choose. And just if you are sitting on a blanket, just make sure you're on the very edge of it. So the hip bones, the sit bones are just on the edge of that blanket. We're going to go into a half butterfly. So sorry, my notes are very old and I'm trying to understand what it was that I wrote. Anyway, we start with a regular butterfly and then straighten out one leg so that it's just a loose diamond. You don't have to bring the leg too much up. The heel is still in the midline with your body. And then once you're there, just reach back, sit yourself up straight and tall, and have blocks, bolster handy, whatever you like. So you can either make a bridge with that bolster, you can hug the bolster, or you might want to ramp the bolster. Or just put it on top of your leg. But sit yourself up straight and tall, and you're just going to come down over that straight leg, maybe using blocks on top of the bolster for your head. Just finding something that works for you. We're going to be in our half butterfly for 4 minutes on each side. So once you have found your spot, something that works for you, finding that sensation of 4 out of 10, wherever that sensation may be. Might be in the back of the left leg, it might be in your right hip. It might be in your low back. Just, it could be somewhere else. But something, you should feel something on a 4 out of 10. And resolve to stay here for the full time. And come back to your breath to allow yourself to soften and surrender into this posture. If at any point that 4 out of 10 becomes less, you can always adjust and sink further into the posture. We'll come back to that circular breath to help with that softening. So just like before, we'll be breathing in through to the back of the throat, down the front center line to the belly. And as you breathe out, allow that air to travel between the legs and back up the spine through the crown of the head. And as you continue to deepen into the posture and sink into it with that circular breath, you might be able to move into that fourth tentative yin, which is simply to become the observer. And that is just taking a step outside the body and just observing what happens, allowing it to happen without judgment, just noticing. And if your thoughts do start to wander, that's okay. Notice that they've wandered. Try and let go of those, let go of that busy, what they call a monkey mind, where it's chattering away in the background. Come back to the breath, slow things down, come back to the present. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out. And then slowly come to sit yourself up, moving away any props. And you can just lean back on your hands, take your feet hip width apart or more, and just do some windshield wipers with those knees to allow everything to reset before we go to the other side. And then when you're ready, we'll set up the same thing. So set up with a loose diamond first, and this time we'll straighten the right leg. So that heel is still in the midline, and that right leg is pretty much going straight out in front of you. And have your props handy. You can do the same setup. You can try something different. And once you get yourself there, we will be there for another 4 minutes. And if your hands are loose and you're not sure what to do with them, then you can just turn them palms up towards the sky. Once you've found your position, come back to the breath once more. Observe where you're feeling sensation and make sure you're just holding that at a 4 out of 10. Resolve to stay here. Allow yourself to soften and surrender into the posture. Use a circular breath, breathing in towards the back of the throat and down the front line to the belly, and exhaling around and back up the spine through the crown of the head. And about halfway through this posture, staying with that circular breath, but maybe being able to go into that fourth tentative yin, where once again you become the observer. You allow the body to guide you as you observe what's happening. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out. And then slowly come back to a seated position. Take the props away. Take both legs out in front of you. Bend the knees. Lean back on the hands and just go back into some windshield wipers. So all of our postures today are for our superficial back line and our deep front line, which gets both the exactly what it sounds like, front and the back, as well as the hips. And in Chinese language, Chinese medicine language, I should say, it is our bladder meridian and our yin and our kidney meridian, which are winter meridians, very appropriately for the weather we've been having lately. All right, so next we're going to come into our dragon posture. So you can choose to use a bolster behind the thigh or not, or if you're not using a bolster, you may want to pad up your knee with the blanket. Have those blocks ready. And we're going to start with the right. So coming into a kneeling, the bolster goes right behind the knees, sorry, right in front of the knees, and then we bring that right leg forward. making sure that the front knee stacks right over the front ankle. And the bolster's there just to sort of support that back thigh, maybe take some pressure out of the back knee. And we're going to be here for about 3 minutes with a twist at the end for another minute. So you can use the blocks, or you can choose to bring an elbow to the knee if you prefer. Whatever works for you. And once you have found something, that's something you can hold for 3 or 4 minutes. Relax through the shoulders if you can while staying upright. And come back to your breath. Resolve to stay here. And then let those hips hang heavy and soften, surrender into this posture. Breathing down the front line to the belly. And breathing around and back up the back line through the crown of the head. Try and keep the face soft, the jaw soft and relaxed. It's an easy place to hold tension in a posture such as our dragon. And over the next 10 to 15 seconds, we're going to transition. So you're going to heel toe that foot out towards the edge of the mat, toes pointed out 45 degrees, hand to the right knee. And you can just let that knee fall out towards the side and twist and look over the right shoulder. Just allowing that right hip to open for the last minute or so. Still breathing through your circular breath, breathing down the front line and up the back line. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out. And then slowly start to come out of this position. And moving your props away, you're just going to come to lie down on your belly. You can stack your forehead on your hands if you'd like. Just for a minute, allowing the body to reset here. Maybe just wiggling the hips back and forth, letting them rock side to side. And if you want to, you can always bend the knees and do windshield wipers as well, or just stay in stillness. It doesn't matter. It's just to allow everything to reset before we go to the other side. And when you're ready, pushing yourself back up to kneeling so that you can get your props ready once more. So once again, the bolster is going to come just in front of those knees. Blocks at the ready if you like to use them. And this time it's the left leg coming forward, stacking that front knee right above the front ankle, and just allowing the bolster to support that back knee. So adjusting as you need to. And once again, we're going to be here for 4 minutes with that little twist at the end. So just like before, resolve to stay here. Find something that feels like you can stay. And then use your breath. Use that circular breath to soften and surrender into this posture. Once more, just think about softening through the face and the jaw, as well as the shoulders. Serenity is the word that comes to mind as I hold dragon. Trying to be serene as possible. Using the breath to help with that. Just like on the other side, over the next 10 to 15 seconds, just go ahead and start to heel toe that left foot out towards the edge of the mat. And left hand to the left knee. And flexing that front foot as you roll onto the outer edge and look over that left shoulder, opening up through that left hip. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Let it all out in a big sigh. And then start to untwist and slowly come out of this posture. And just like the other side, we're going to be coming down onto our belly, moving the props aside, stacking your forehead on your hands. And once you're there, you can choose to reset in stillness or rock those hips side to side, or a windshield wipe, bending from the knees, letting the ankles become the windshield wipers. And then when you're ready, coming on up to a seated position once more. And again, you can use a blanket for padding. We're going to go into our caterpillar posture, which is the legs straight out in front. It's basically our forward seated fold with props. So it's a relaxed one. So you can either use bolsters right on the legs, or you can create a bridge with your bolsters, with your blocks and your bolster. You can put bolsters and block together, or you can hug the bolster. Your choice. And we're going to sit up straight and tall to start. Just make sure you are nice and seated. Your pelvis is tilted forward, and then you're going to fold forward using whatever you like to soften into it. So you can come to rest forehead on hands, or you can use a block, or you can ramp the bolster. Use whatever combination makes sense for you. I'm going to be here for a total of 5 minutes, so it's a nice long hold. Find that 4 out of 10 that works for you, and feel free at any point in this 5 minutes to adjust to move further in or out of the posture if you find that the sensation is getting too great or has dissipated. And once you've found something that's working for you, as usual, start to soften and surrender into this. Notice where you're feeling the sensation, and think specifically about softening through that area. Are there muscles or parts of your body that are protecting it, that are not softening? And use that circular breath to just allow you to basically get it out of your head so that you can soften. Breathing down through the front line and breathing it back up the back line, through the crown of the head. Just stay focused on that nice circular breath as you sink into the posture. Remembering to adjust if you need to, further into the posture, a little bit out. And if you're just doing an amazing job at that circular breath, maybe allowing yourself to become the observer of your body. Taking a step outside and just seeing what's happening, allowing it to happen. About 1 more minute here. Stay with your breath and continue to soften and surrender into this posture. Take a nice long deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out. And then slowly come back up to your seated position. And we're going to make our way all the way down to our back to reset. And once you are on your back, bend your knees, soles of the feet flat on the ground. And we're just going to do a 10 or 15-second bridge just to do a quick little reset before we completely relax. So bend your knees so that you can maybe graze your heels with your index or your middle finger. And then push your hands down into the mat. Lift your hips up towards the sky. Maybe walk those shoulder blades together. And maybe just use your hands to support your hips. And just hold this for a few seconds. One more breath here. And then exhale, slowly lowering yourself all the way to the ground, taking the legs out long and wide, taking your arms out wide. So you've got a big jellyfish happening for about another half a minute, fully resetting before the next posture. And when you're ready, just bend your knees and roll over onto one side or the other so you can just easily sit yourself back up to get ready for the next posture, which is going to be lying back down on our belly, but in a seal position so we can get set up. So if you want to use a blanket to pad your forearms, you can. Put it near the top of the mat and grab your bolster and have a block handy near the top of the mat. And you're going to come down onto that bolster, bringing your bottom ribs down onto that bolster, the very bottom of those ribs. Bring the blanket forward if you need to. I'm quite a ways down my mat. And we're going to be here in our Sphinx position, so palms facing down for about 3 minutes, and then we'll proceed up to seal. So if you want to use a bolster for your forehead, just take some pressure out of the shoulders. Elbows should be stacked pretty much underneath the shoulders, shoulder width apart, and the wrists in line with the elbows. If there's any pain in the low back, feel free to take the feet a little further apart or maybe closer together. You can play with it. And if that's still too much, then you might take your elbows a little forward of the shoulders or remove the bolster and just don't come up quite as far. Once you have found a position that you can maintain, come back to your circular breath. Seal and the Sphinx are great for just really feeling the front line as we stretch through it. So you're breathing down into your belly, which is on a bit of a stretch. And as you breathe out, you're breathing back up through the spine and up through the crown of the head, which is maybe a little bit compressed. Notice if you're holding any tension in your glutes or your low back. Use your breath to soften through those areas so that you can sink further into the posture. Over the next 10 seconds or so, we'll move ourselves up to a seal position. So if your head is on a block, remove the block. Take your arms out to about mat width apart and just start to straighten those elbows so you come into more of an arch. And try and keep the shoulders relaxed away from the ears here, only coming up to what's comfortable for that back. And come back to the circular breath, still feeling through that front line and the back line. And using your breath to just notice any areas where you are holding tension and trying to soften through those. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out. And then remove your props and just come to lie down on your belly. Or if you prefer, you can take a 1-minute child's pose with the bolster. Your choice. Just for a minute, allow the body to reset here. And then you guys are on your belly, so just stay on your belly. You might have slippery floors. We'll see how this works. I'm going to start with my left leg so that I'm facing the camera and I can see you. You don't have to, but we're going to be bending the right hip and knee. They may or may not come to 90 degrees. I'm going to use a blanket just underneath the knee because once I fight through the hip cramp that has just occurred. Um, what you can do is just sort of grab onto that blanket or towel to pull the knee closer towards your face. And you're going to be turning your head the same direction as that knee. So if you've got your left knee bent, it's your right cheek to the mat when you're looking towards that left knee. And then you can just take cactus arms. And we're going to stay here for about 4 minutes, adjusting and bringing that knee closer towards the face or further down, trying to let those hips be soft so that they're letting gravity draw them down. And you're really opening up through that left hip if it's your left leg that's come forward. And then once you have found a position that works for you, come back to the breath. Allow yourself to soften into this position. Allow your hips to soften. And each time you breathe out, as you breathe up that back line, think about letting that front of the left hip just sink a little closer towards the earth. We're over halfway through, but think of this like a half frog, and just like we do in frog, we often make adjustments as we work our way through it. So if you need to bring your knee a little closer up towards your shoulder, you can do that. Or if you need to work your way out of it, you can do that too. We have about 1 more minute here. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Open your mouth, let it all out. And then slowly return that leg back to straight behind you. Stack your forehead on your hands, bend your knees, and just do some windshield wipers with those lower legs. Before we go to set up on the other side. So then I'm just switching angles, ends of the mat. So we'll do the right leg this time. Bringing the right leg up onto the blanket if you were using it last time, or it doesn't matter, you can use it or not use it. We're going to be here for 4 minutes once more. And so, again, just think of it as being that half frog. So we're trying to get that hip to 90 degrees, knee to 90 degrees, and the toes splayed out. Turning the left cheek to the mat this time. So our eyes are looking towards that right knee and adjusting as you need to. Maybe bring that knee a little closer up towards the shoulder. And once you have found your spot, coming back to your breath, using your circular breath to allow yourself to soften and surrender into this. And each time you're breathing out and up through that back line, feel the front of that right hip just sinking a little further towards the earth. We're over halfway through, so once more, just check in, and if you need to make any adjustments, feel free to do that to allow you to sink further into the posture. And if you have made any adjustments, once they're done, just come back to that circular breath and continue to soften into the earth. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out. And then slowly return that leg back to straight. And we're going to just move right into our Shavasana and do our reset in Shavasana. So grab any layers. You can use a bolster under the knees. And once you've got yourself all comfy and warm and relaxed, come to lie down. Making sure the heels are still in contact with the earth if your knees are over a bolster. And letting the backs of your arms. Okay, stop looking at the cat. Coming to Shavasana, as is my cat. Um, Time has flown away. So palms facing up, closing down the eyes. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out. And then close down the mouth and come back to your normal breath, letting go of any of the circular breath we've been practicing. We're coming back to what feels natural for you. Allowing the body to stay soft as it has throughout the class. Feeling yourself sink down into the earth and letting the weight of your body feel fully supported by the earth. And just taking a moment to notice how the body feels after having gone through a yin practice. Sensations are sometimes different than after regular yoga practice. Allow your jaw and your face to fully soften. It will be a little bit of a short shavasana today, but yin's just like an hour-long shavasana anyway in different positions. So just allow yourself to relax, whether this is your only job to do for the next minute or two. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out. And then just turn your head from one side to the other to awaken the spine. Start to bring life to the fingers and the toes, giving them a little wiggle. And take your arms up overhead and give yourself a big stretch from your fingertips all the way down to your toes. And then rolling over onto your preferred side, whichever side that may be. And when you're ready, pushing yourself away from the earth and coming up to an easy seated position. And bringing your hands to heart center and just tilting your forehead towards your fingertips and giving yourself a moment to thank yourself for taking time out of your day to look after your body and your mind through the practice of Yin Yoga. And I thank you for sharing your practice with me tonight. Namaste.